Ms. Monica Newport, would you please call the roll?
Board Member McKissick. Board Member Hewitt Garcia.
Here.
Board Member Woods. Board Member Love.
Here.
Vice Chair Harris.
Here.
Board Member Coleman.
Here.
Board Member Johnson.
Here.
Board Member Williams.
Here.
Chair Green.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have 7 board members present this morning.
Thank you. This is a critically important and special board work session this morning. As our search firm, HYA Associates, shares the finalists for the role of Superintendent of Memphis-Shelby County Schools, the largest school district in Tennessee. There is no role more important than this right now, as our leader will help shape the lives of over 100,000 children, as well as our workforce of the future. We thank our community members for joining us in person and online this morning. We ask that you be silent listeners so everyone, including my board colleagues and I, can clearly hear the search firm's presentation. Like you, we are hearing for the first time the details of their vetting process and the final names of the individuals they believe are the best applicants for the job. I want to recognize Board Member Kevin Woods. With that, I'd like to introduce to some and reintroduce to others Max McGee and Micaiah with HYA.
Good morning, Madam President, or Madam Chairwoman. The terms are interchangeable. I'm Makai Ali with HYA, and here with Dr. Max McGee. Okay, just want to make sure we have a mic check. Is that good? All right. Okay, is that better? All right, Makai Ali with HYA, and I'm here with Dr. Max McGee.
Great. Well, thank you. We're so excited to have the opportunity to meet with you today and present the results of our work over the last several weeks. We do have slides that we'll go through. Before we share our recommendations for the 3 finalists, we would like to talk a bit about the process. So let's have the next slide, please. Thank you. So we had 34 applications in total. We had expected to get 20 to 25. So I think the fact that we got 34 speaks to the interest in this job, the excitement about it, the importance of this opportunity, and the quality of the school district. We reviewed the resumes and letter of interest for basic qualifications, and we'll talk about what those are in just a moment. Of that 34, we advanced 21 to the next round for interviews, for internet searches, social media background checks. The interviews were 45 to 60-minute initial interviews, a total of 17 questions, and you'll get your packet in a moment with the candidates. The questions that we asked are in the back of your packet. Of this 21, we had a second round, or a third round actually, for highly viable candidates. We identified 12 of those. We asked them to submit a writing sample and a 90-second video introduction. Next slide, please. So these were the basic qualifications which we mentioned on the last slide. They needed to have some experience as a superintendent, deputy superintendent, associate superintendent, assistant superintendent, or other cabinet level position. I will say that we did invite a couple folks who were at a lower level to interview. One withdrew his application and one never had a response to the email. If someone was a serial applicant, at HYA, we conduct about 80 searches a year across the country, and we have some people that apply for every job that's open, and they have not been qualified for earlier jobs, and we're certainly not qualified for a job as important as this one. And then also, unless there was a newly elected board majority that forced a candidate out of their position, we expect that they would be leaving their current position in good standing with positive references from their current school board. We want candidates who want to be here, who are excited about this opportunity, who are eager to lead Memphis and not running away from another district. And also, we wanted to see if they could write. And you'll see a slide in a moment, the rubric that we use for the cover letter. And if they had a 1 or 2 on the 4-point scale, we took that as a disqualification unless there was some other compelling factor. The additional documents depended on whether the candidates were from outside the system or from inside the system. We asked candidates from outside the system to write a 1 or 2 page letter or email that they would send to the staff if they were to be selected as your district's next superintendent. You'll find those in your packet in a moment at the back of the packet. We also asked them to provide a video of no more than 90 seconds to introduce themselves to the school board. So you will be able to meet the finalists today via 90-second video. And it was a challenge for some to get under 90 seconds, but we made them do it. One gentleman went on for 6 minutes and 37 seconds. And we said, not sure anyone's going to pay that much attention. You may be great, but see if you can get it down to 90 seconds. And that individual is not being recommended, by the way. If it was an internal candidate, it was different because the internal candidate already knows who you are. You already know the internal candidates who had applied. So we had a different prompt for them, but it was still a 1 or 2 page letter. This is one that they would email or send to the community as the next superintendent. And their video was different. It was a video, again, of no more than 90 seconds that they could send to the staff if they were selected to be the next superintendent. Well, let's look at the rubric now and how we were able to narrow the field from 34 to 21 to 12 to 3. We use 16 different criteria. Each of these has a 4-point scale. I'm going to review 2 of those. I have 2 of those listed up. This is proprietary, but again, if board members have any questions about any of these, I'll be glad to just go through them verbally. So these were the criteria, and they received a number from 1 to 4, a rating from 1 to 4 on each of these 16. The cover letter, the resume, relevant experience, academic leadership, operational leadership, board leadership, community engagement. Was their internet background clean? Was their social media clean? Was it positive? Did they produce positive social media? Their response to the interview questions and substance, their interview presence, their connection to Memphis-Shelby County Schools, their references, writing sample, the video introduction, how well prepared they were, how serious are they about this job, did they do their homework, have they watched board meetings, have they done their research beyond just reading a few things on the website, and finally, our assessment of their fit with the district's needs. So here's a few examples. Next, please. So for the cover letter, this is what we're looking for, and I won't bother reading all bullets under every point. But as you can see, a 4-point cover letter, we want to have a very compelling letter, a very customized and compelling letter that conveys excitement and enthusiasm for this job. We're not looking for something, and actually, you can write into chatbot, please write me a good cover letter. We're looking for people with a voice. We're looking for people with their own voice who are authentic. We want specific examples of successful outcomes. Mentioned the customization. We wanted to see hyperlinks, codes, or another option for learning more about the candidate. So some candidates put in hyperlinks. Some candidates said, added some extra materials, and you'll have an example in your packet for one of the candidates. Of course, it needs to be grammatically correct, free of typos or misspellings, and readable in format and length. And you can go down and see. 3 is certainly still acceptable. But at 2 and 1, we saw little reason to advance a candidate unless there was something significantly in their background that merited it. So oftentimes they don't make a compelling reason for seeking the position. Their letters, just a quick review of their resume. Oftentimes it's not customized and rambles, or it's too cryptic. So that's just one example. Here's a rubric for experience. There is a 4-point successful superintendent of a large urban district, 10 years of school and district leadership experience, and you can read down 3, 2, 1. I do want to explain what non-traditional superintendent or interim superintendent means. A non-traditional candidate, that's a term that we use in the search business, not just at HYA, but any firm. It's someone who has not necessarily come up through the teaching ranks. It's not someone who's been a teacher, a principal, a district office leader, a cabinet member. It's someone who maybe came from a foundation background, someone who came from the military. A candidate who we helped place in Colorado was a retired colonel in the Army. We've had non-traditional candidates come from the business world who've been very successful superintendents. So that's what that non-traditional means in quotation marks. So those are just two examples. So now if you would pass out the folders, let's have a chance to meet our three finalists. And these are in alphabetical order by last name. These three individuals had the three highest scores across the 16 rubrics. The 64 was a perfect score. These candidates range from 59 to 62 across all dimensions. In your packet, you'll probably need a few moments to look through it. In your packet, the materials are in order. So Dr. Casellius are on top. You'll find her cover letter, her resume, and she was the one who included additional documents. And you'll find that those additional documents are in there. They include an article she wrote while she was working in the Memphis School District. On middle schools, it was a published article. You'll find an article of accomplishments when she was superintendent in Boston, and an article of accomplishments when she was state superintendent in Minnesota. Following that, you'll find Dr. Jenkins' materials, and we'll go through these candidates in more detail in just a moment. Dr. Jenkins' materials, again, include his cover letter and his resume. And next, you'll find Interim Superintendent Williams' materials. Following these materials, you will also find the list of our pre-screening interview questions. And then all lumped together are their writing prompts. You'll recall that the writing prompts for the two out-of-district candidates, Dr. Casellius and Dr. Jenkins, they were directed to write a 1 or 2 page letter to the staff. Interim Superintendent Williams, because she was an internal candidate, had a different writing sample, same length. Hers was to introduce herself as a new superintendent to the community. And you will have an opportunity to see their videos in a little bit after we go through each candidate. So let's move on to Dr. Casellius. This is a summary of Dr. Casellius' experience. And as you'll see as you go through the resumes of all candidates, including Dr. Casellius, that each of them has specific accomplishments under their different positions. Dr. Casellius is currently a CEO of a consultant group, and more recently she was superintendent of Boston Public Schools. She was commissioner of education of the state of Minnesota, worked and lived in Minnesota. She was a middle school academic superintendent here, the Memphis City Schools in 2004, 2007. And that article, again, that she published is in there. And you can read the rest of her work. So she would be considered a traditional candidate in that she has come up from the ranks of teachers through the superintendency. She had a high rating. Now, one of the areas that she was slightly lower because her board experience has not been this year. It was 2019 to 2022. That was a 3 instead of a 4 in board experience, even though she has had extensive board experience. Let's move on to the next. This is Dr. Casellius' education and certification. And you can just read this where her education was. She got her EDD from the University of Memphis. Other education was primarily in Minnesota. But again, a thorough education background. The next slide, for every candidate, this was almost an impossible job. We wanted to highlight the accomplishments of each of the candidates, and there's a long list. So choosing 5, was quite challenging. So the fact that she was a successful urban superintendent and a state commissioner experience, has really well prepared her to serve students, staff, the greater community, and certainly to navigate the political environment and climate of big city schools. She excels at all phases of designing, developing, implementing, managing, and evaluating systemic change. Is proven to be excellent at community engagement, communication. In fact, in her first, I think, 200 days at Boston, she went and visited every school. And according to the references we checked, these were not just 10-minute walkthroughs. They were sitting down for hours in each school. Extraordinary preparation for this position. Dr. Casellius has a fire in her belly to be the next superintendent, to say the least. Exceptionally authentic and approachable communicator, verbal, written, audio, visual, and her references said that she is a remarkable listener. So that's Dr. Casellius. Chair Green, should we go one by one, or should we go through everybody and then come back with questions after we go through all three? What do you prefer, Chair Green? Excuse me? Okay. Do you want to do
All right, Madam Chairperson and members of the governing authority, the next person will be Dr. Carlton Jenkins. His experience: currently serves as the superintendent of the Madison Metropolitan School District in Madison, Wisconsin. He also has a background working at the university space. He's been chief academic officer in Atlanta. He served as superintendent in Michigan. He also has extensive background with respect to charter schools. He's served as a school site leader for many years, having worked in multiple states, not the least of which includes Ohio. In addition, he's served as a physical education and health teacher. Next slide is education. Doctor of Philosophy, Education Leadership from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. His dissertation topic, very interesting: what factors contribute to narrowing the achievement gap, a case study of multicultural and disadvantaged participation in co-curricular activities at a large urban high school. He has a master's degree also from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and he attended the university in Mississippi for his baccalaureate degree, University Valley State University, to be exact. State of Washington Administrator. He has a certification which is still in good standing. Next slide is distinguishing experience, leadership and talent development. He's widely regarded in this respect. History of proven successful leadership for academic and operational outcomes. Excels at board development and cultivating successful governance teams, and this is evident by the references that he received. In addition, excels at successfully navigating politically charged environments. That's a core asset that any urban superintendent must have, is the ability to navigate the often tenacious waters of politics. Knowledge of and commitment to early learning and science of reading-based literacy. Very essential. As many of you have referenced the NAEP data, there's some significant issues vis-a-vis literacy, as well as numeracy, but literacy in particular, and Dr. Jenkins has a skill set that can help to address that challenge.
Great, thank you. And I wanted to just identify one area where each candidate did not receive a 4, though there were maybe more than one. But for example, this candidate did not have a 4 on the Memphis connection, having not worked in Memphis prior to this. So that was a difference again between a 4 and a 3. So let's go to our next candidate, Interim Superintendent Williams. Her experience, currently Interim Superintendent and Chief Financial Officer. She had come here after being a Chief Financial Officer in Millington. Been Director of Accounting and Budget in Shelby County Schools and Manager of Accounting and Reporting. She came to the education world through a private industry and through as Easy Go, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the international accounting firm, and Cox Communications. Interim Superintendent Williams is one who we would call a non-traditional candidate. I want to re-emphasize that non-traditional is not synonymous with, or does not mean anything less than that individual can still be an extraordinary leader. And as you'll see when we move to the next 2 or 3 slides, we believe that she not only has that potential, but has shown herself to be an extraordinary leader as Chief Financial Officer and as Interim Superintendent. Education, you can see her education, again, really came up through the accounting world. And next, please. Distinguishing differences from Ms. Interim Superintendent Williams. She's currently the successful interim superintendent, and we use the adjective successful given the circumstances under which she took the job. We realized it was a significant challenge coming into this, being put into it while you're still the CFO. She brings both operational and financial expertise, and I think has the academic support, again from what we've learned from our reference checking, to serve the school district well. She certainly has a lifelong connection to Memphis as she's grown up in the school system. She has the human capital management that we were able to discover and to learn, that she has been able to support teachers following the pandemic and in a way that both impacted student achievement and also the social emotional growth and the mental health of students and staff, making these a priority. She is a clear communicator and truly a dynamic presence. So let's see their videos, and we did a sound check earlier. Let's hope they work. So the first two again were introducing themselves to the school board. So let's give it a shot, Monica.
Role of your next superintendent. As you may know, if I were fortunate enough to be selected to lead the Memphis-Shelby County Schools, it would be a homecoming of sorts. As a young educator, I learned the fundamentals of leadership in Memphis, and I've carried those with me my entire career. I'm a proven leader who has dedicated my life to improving outcomes for children, and I'd be honored to once again serve the children and families of this great city. I offer authentic leadership because I understand the lived experience of many of the students we serve. As a young girl growing up in poverty, and as a young single mother myself, I know firsthand what it's like to miss out on opportunity and to struggle to make ends meet. But I also know that the power of an excellent education and access to opportunity can absolutely change lives. It did for me, and that is why I pay it forward and wake up every day to make a difference for as many children and their families as I can, especially our most underserved and vulnerable. I've served at every level, from special education paraprofessional to Minnesota's Commissioner of Education, and I'm proud to have been the first African American to hold that position. And most recently, I served as superintendent of Boston Public Schools, the oldest public school system in the nation. I've courageously and successfully navigated the toughest issues by holding high standards for academic excellence, equity, and staying true to what is right and just for our children, even when it's uncomfortable. And I've gotten results through both policy and practice, and not just in one state, but in 3. And most importantly, right here in Memphis, leading the middle school turnaround, and most recently in Boston, opening up equitable access to the best high schools in the nation. As an ethical leader, I consistently act with integrity, and I would be a credible voice both locally and nationally for Memphis-Shelby County Schools. I've been a trusted advisor and partner to U.S. secretaries, mayors, governors, and legislators. I know how to build political will and weave systems of support so that children, families, and communities thrive. I also value the role you, the school board, plays in leading this work, so we exceed our standards and hold ourselves accountable. It would be an absolute dream come true to serve the children and families once again in Memphis-Shelby County Schools. Thank you for the opportunity.
That's her introduction.
Hello, Chair Gray and other distinguished members of this board. I am Dr. Carlton D. Jenkins, a very inspired candidate for the next superintendent of Memphis-Shelby County Schools. I am currently serving as superintendent in Madison Metropolitan School District in Madison, Wisconsin. I concurrently serve as a clinical professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I have previously served as superintendent in Provincetown, Minnesota, and Saginaw, Michigan. My extensive educational experience has allowed me to impact leadership, policy, and practice in informing positive outcomes for our pre-K through 20 scholars. I work with the community and business partners to adequately serve our students and bring resources to our schools. I began my educational journey at Central High School in Phoenix City, Alabama, where I earned an athletic scholarship to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga before transferring to Mississippi Valley State University, where I earned my bachelor's degree in health and physical education. On graduation, I was recruited to Beloit, Wisconsin, where I continued with my journey of earning my degrees, my master's and my PhD from the University of Wisconsin. Yes, I know my extensive experience can support Memphis-Shelby County Schools in moving our district and our community forward. I look forward to having another conversation with you at a later date.
Right. And before we start, Dr. Williams, I'm sorry I left something out. I had, for each of the other candidates, I had mentioned an area where they dropped from 4 to 3, and I neglected to do that, so I just need to do that. We gave her relevant experience a 3 instead of a 4 because she has not had the depth of education experience as other applicants who came out through the superintendency. So I just wanted to be fair and make sure that we had one area for everybody where they received a mark lower than a 4. And now let's play that video.
Hello, Memphis-Shelby County Schools. I am honored by the opportunity to lead. Like many of the students and families that we represent, I grew up right here in Memphis, Tennessee, and earned an education in these classrooms. I know firsthand where opportunities and challenges exist. I am highly motivated to serve the community that once served me. I will continue to lead by listening, questioning, and taking bold action. What I have continuously heard from our staff is the need for genuine support. I will not merely tell you that I'm here for the betterment of our students and staff. I will show you every day. Academics should be at the core of everything that we do to prepare our students for the high-waged, advanced jobs of the future. Our strategies and resources must directly align, and we can no longer be afraid to call out when they do not work. I believe this is where my innovative approach and extensive background in financial strategy will increase learning, academic growth, and ultimately a better future for our students. We will improve our district's culture and climate by building a culture of celebration. Serving you is one of the greatest honors in my life. I will continue to lead with integrity and forge a successful path forward through academics, accountability, safety, and respect for our students. Thank you.
So again, those are the introductory videos. Their letters are the last item in your packet, and you'll find those in there. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Ali for the next steps.
Madam Chair and members of the governing authority, the next steps are on the screen. Invite finalists to interview on April 21st as well as 22nd. And then we're going to move on to determining which questions from the community will be asked as a part of the interview session. The board will then move forward with respect to deciding on the long finalists and then complete contract negotiation. Subsequent to that is vote on the contract as well as introduce the new superintendent to the district as well as the entire community.
Next slide, please. So thank you. That concludes our presentation. We are excited, eager to answer any and all questions the governing board members may have.
Thank you. Board Member Shalia Harris, following Shalia, Board Member Love. Just use your button, guys, so I'm watching to see the order for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. 2 immediate questions, and then I'll pass it on to my colleagues. First, why are we just not receiving the rubric? I looked at some of those indicators, and there are some things that I just don't agree with. And had we had the conversation prior to, I think we probably would have had some different finalists. That's my first question. The second one, why would you present a candidate for the largest school district in Tennessee with no background as an educator or a school leader? Excuse me. The second part of that second question is that 90-second video, if any equipment was used that belongs to Memphis-Shelby County Schools to make that video, that's a problem.
Good. I'll answer the first question. The first question is that we were charged to bring 3 finalists, and that's what we did. So we, again, our rubric is proprietary. We use that. I shared 2 of the items on the screen. And so we don't, by our practice of our firm, we use a rubric for all of our searches, and we use it internally to make those decisions. I'm sorry, I can.
Do you use the same rubric for all of your searches, or do you consult with the board members on what should be on there?
We use a rubric based on what we learned from the engagement phase, so we don't necessarily consult with the board members, but we do, obviously, for a large urban search is quite different from a suburban search or a small rural search.
When you say the engagement phase, wouldn't that be your one-on-ones you have with all the board members?
No, we use that primarily, the KQ Communications Report, the Memphis Lift Group, and some, of course, some of interaction with the board members as well.
So the last part you said, what was the last part? You mentioned board members.
As well as with some interaction with the board members as well. I spoke with 4 board members, I believe, I think.
I was one of them.
Right.
And there are some things that I specifically said that need to be included, and I did not see those on there.
I'll have to look at my notes to recall those.
Please do. The second
Okay.
question about the candidate.
Do you want to answer that?
The second question, Ms. Harris, is as stated within the rubric.
The rubric that we did not see until just now.
Well, the rubric that's before the community, as well as members of the board, are in receipt of the documentation. Throughout the country, there's been numerous superintendents employed in large urban systems without instructional experience. There's a tremendous amount of examples, and so as labeled, this particular candidate will be considered a non-traditional candidate. The individual has experience within the executive ranks, thus would qualify to move up within the overall ranking. This is nothing that's irregular or abnormal or just specific to Memphis. Again, a plethora of examples of superintendents who serve without doctoral degrees and or without classroom instructional experience. And this district has also had precedent set with the previous superintendent who served without instructional experience. As a matter of fact, the individual was an attorney.
That did not lead to success for us, and so I don't want to bring up any previous superintendents. If we can just kind of focus on where we are right now. I think that if board members had an opportunity to look at the rubric just to make sure that we are in agreement with it, we might have had some different candidates as our finalists. I will yield and pass it over to my colleague because I've taken up enough time.
I asked the same question in an email that Shalia asked to you. I think we should have seen the rubric before today. A second question, do you know the policy?
We do know the policy, and we have a legal opinion written by Tamara, Gary Gibson, Birch, Porter, and Johnson. The conclusion, I'll read this word for word. An applicant for the role of superintendent and director of schools in Tennessee is only, and that's underlined in the document, required to hold a baccalaureate degree, and policy 1003 and any other policy that may conflict with current law are void and unenforceable. So yes, we were aware of the policy. We use that, as you see on the board up here, to guide the difference between 4 points and 3, 2, and 1. So we did use that 10 years. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, one reason that interim superintendent did not receive a 4 in that category.
Let me ask our general counsel, is that all right?
Yeah,
Would you please walk us through the policy?
yeah. Because it's misled by the public. And I want to get a clear understanding of the policy so we can put an end to this.
Thank you. Counsel.
Thank you, Board Chair Green, and thank you for the question also, Board Member Love. So first, I understand that there was recently an opinion given, but I want to be clear, I guess, from my standpoint with respect to the policy. And I think if I can understand your question is whether or not there is some discretion for the board to pick a candidate for superintendent that has a non-traditional background. So the answer to that question is yes. So on the policy 1003, it does lay out a list of criteria, some of which include someone with academic experience, but then it affords the board discretion to pick someone with equivalent experience or some experience of theirs that's non-traditional in nature that may be, I guess, equivalent to the board. And so at any given point throughout this process, the board moves forward with selecting a superintendent that doesn't have that academic experience that's set forth in policy 1003, then it would need to decide whether or not there's some equivalent experience that satisfies the board and that meets the qualifications for its next superintendent. With respect to the law that is correct under 492301, I believe that the minimum experience or requirements that's set forth by Tennessee law is that the candidate have a baccalaureate degree. So I think that your policy is valid in that it does afford you the discretion to pick someone who's non-traditional. Does that answer your question, Ms. Love?
No and yes.
Well, if you like, I want to be clear, Ms. Love, and for the board, I mean, is there anything in particular I can clarify for you?
No.
All right, thank you. Board Member Garcia, following Board Member Williams and Board Member Coleman.
Before I ask my question, I just want to relay what Board Member McKissick had to leave for a family medical emergency, so she asked us to share that, so she's had to leave. My question is, who requested a legal opinion of 1003, and why was the board not made aware that that was happening?
Interim superintendent requested the legal opinion, and we just got it yesterday. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Ali, hold on one second. I want to remind the audience, please use a thumbs up or a thumbs down because we're recording and we want to make sure that they can hear, all right? Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure people heard your response.
Yes, we did receive a legal opinion yesterday.
At the request of interim superintendent?
Yes.
Monica, could you go back to slide 5, please, and leave, there we go. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would like to speak out of turn. We have a board policy. We have a general counsel. While I appreciate the legal opinion that states the state law, which sets the floor for how this board operates, it is our policy that sets the ceiling. We can choose the best candidate that's best for this community. I think our interim is qualified to be a candidate, just like the rest of these, but I didn't need a legal opinion to decide what my community want for this board. So let's be clear on that. All right, we know what the policy says. We have a general counsel sitting right here, and it is intended for this body to pick the most qualified candidate, but also to engage the community in the event that we want a non-traditional candidate. So I just want to get that on record to state that that was not required to do so.
Thank you, Board Member Williams. Board Member Garcia, were you through? I just wasn't sure. All right, Board Member Williams.
Yes, am I to understand that Brenda Casellius is the Brenda Casellius who worked in this district previously?
Yes, sir.
Am I also to understand that the young man who's applying for the superintendency, of your selections, you could only come up with those two people, including, how many people did you tell me applied for this position?
We had 34 people apply, and thank you, right there. And
So
we,
the 34 people who applied, you were chose to select 3.
we were asked to bring 3 finalists to the board. That was the charge given us.
It just appears to me that we don't have a lot here to, Brenda Casellius has had her time here. The young man, I'm just wondering, can we see everybody who applied?
I can't. If you can hear him, go ahead. I can't. No, I can say I can't hear him.
We're waiting on a response. Thank you.
Can you, I'm sorry, I'm a little hearing impaired. Can you just,
Well, I understand
I'm
how
sorry,
you,
go ahead.
I understand how you situated your process. You went through a process and you eliminated people based on certain things. I guess they're scoring. But is there an evidence, can we see the evidence of all applicants?
I'll leave that up to the majority of the board.
Thank you.
I think let me just jump in, I'm sorry. And I remember we asked that, and it may have been on the advisory committee about seeing the names of the candidates, and you stated that that was by law, we couldn't see it because it would jeopardize those people who were still working. So I want to be real clear that I think we asked that question about seeing the list, and I thought we were not privileged to that. So if you're going to give me a different answer, that's fine. I just want to be real clear on the record about that answer.
Mr. Walker and I have had a conversation. I don't think we ever concluded what we should do with that. It's yeah, we asked about releasing the names of candidates. Right now, these are the only 3 you have seen. The information is actually all with HYA.
Yes, and just to be clear, the conversation that I had with HYA was pertinent to a public records request that had been submitted regarding some of the application materials, and specifically if at some point there was going to be a release of the finalist materials, whether or not there was information that needed to be redacted pursuant to Tennessee law. And so we had that conversation. I think we settled on the issue that personal information is not subject to public disclosure. So if at some point there's going to be a publication of the finalists' application materials, then there will need to be some redactions made. As to the question as to whether or not there should be a full release of materials, I do believe that that is up to the discretion of the board.
I think it's understood that I think the board may be asking for that information. Is that agreed upon? Oh, we are. Thank you. If it's something we are privileged to, we do request to see that.
We can send that electronically.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, it sounds that there will likely be an immediate public request for that information also, so that we should be prepared for that as well.
Public records. Thank you. Mr. Williams, are you through? Yes. All right. Board Member Johnson?
Yes. Don't get us wrong, we do appreciate, the search and everything that you've done for us, but we made promises to our community. We promised our community that we would search for the best candidate, we would do everything we can to find the best candidate for this position. In this case, it doesn't seem like that was done. And like what my fellow board member Shalia brought up, where was the rubric? We're just getting this information along with the public. So we had no time to say what we wanted to see in that rubric. We didn't get any time to do that. So just understand our position. Promises were made to our community because we want to establish trust back with our community. And so with this, while the candidates are qualified, we think that this, at least in my opinion, that there could more could be done in this search for us to find a candidate for us.
Thank you. All right. I'll make sure you're going to get what you asked for. Board Member Coleman?
Thank you, Chair. Wow. That's what I can say right now is wow. Some of the things that we asked for, we haven't received them. The rubric today, we still don't know the scoring of all of that. Equivalent experience. What I call equivalent experience may not be the same. So is it just the same across the board for everybody? What does that look like? What does equivalent experience look like? How do we know what equivalent experience and what you are qualifying as equivalent experience the same thing? So many unanswered questions. I agree with my colleagues that we should have gotten this information before now. We are elected to represent the will of the community. And right now, I can't even represent my will because things are unanswered. And we don't have answer questions to our community because they expect that from us. So we need better solutions, better questions answered, in my opinion. Thank you.
Ms. Coleman, just in a quick response, again, we will abide by, we work for you and with you, so we will abide by the will of the majority of the board. Our direction was solely to bring 3 finalists. If the majority of the board wants additional material, as you just voted now, we are more than happy to share that with you.
I'm not even talking about the 3 finalists. Who are the 99 that's not finalists?
Right, we'll share that information with you.
Can we get some better choice? I'm not even saying the people that we have here are not the best, but is there a way for us to have a little more input that these are who we want? We have to work with that person. We have to be representative of our city with that person. In August, that person's not going to be voted. We are. And I got to be able to look at my constituents in my district and say, Joyce did the best. I got to look at my children in my district and say, Joyce did the best she could for you. That's all any of us up here saying. Again, I have nothing against these 3 people that you brought to us today, but it's more to be given to us. I know that.
I want to jump in and be very clear. As chair of this board, I'm not saying that I am saying that I want you to go back. We are not going to accept, because as a board, I think I hear my colleagues. I want you to go back. We're not going to just accept this. If there's another candidate, then that's up to the will of this board to say that. We appreciate what you have done, but what I hear is, it's just not good enough. We have to live with these folk in Memphis. We represent this entire district. We represent the city. We represent 110,000 children. We represent 14,000 employees, but we live here. I'm not saying that you didn't do a good job. I'm saying I expect you to do a better job. Thank you. Vice Chair.
I don't think I have too much more to add than what my colleague said. I'm completely disappointed. Completely disappointed. You and I had one-on-one conversations I was very straightforward with what I expected in this process. Even the transparency among the board members on you all sharing information, that did not happen. I have that in writing that I shared that. The 34 candidates, we asked for that a long time ago. So I don't know why we don't have it. It's Saturday. We're here on a Saturday morning, and we as a board, we feel unprepared because we hired you all to do a job and you did not do it well. So I'm disappointed.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, let me acknowledge, when did you start this process?
We had our first community meeting in December of 2022.
Okay. So
Yes,
I
sir.
do want to acknowledge over the last 3 to 4 months, your leadership, the work you've provided in partnership with the search committee, the feedback we've gotten, as well as the work that has been done by Hazard Young, and to be able to produce qualified candidates. What cannot be lost in this process is the names and the people, many who've given their entire lives to public education, and the great work that our interim is doing at this moment in time. It's of value. But you have the simple ability to remove all doubt from those that we have been given the authority to sit in this seat. Provide the candidates, provide the data to support why they're not in the top 3. And the current policy we have will stand on its own, that we can pick our superintendent, that we have the ability to do that, and that we will do that. Your work is not lost. Madam Chair, this work is not lost. This is not a restart. This is to simply give us the additional information to be able to validate to this deserving community that the right person will ultimately sit in that seat. Thank you.
Right. And we appreciate the clarity. We did not have, we were not informed that the majority of the board wanted to see all 34 applicants. Now that we are informed of that, we are more than happy. Again, you'll have that link to be able to see all those applications this afternoon.
Yes, sir. I think to be very clear, the board, you all, my colleagues, we are a team, we are a unit. We have the power, we have the votes, and I think everybody trusts us. We've said that we would do this process, and we want to honor what we have said to the community. Commissioner Love, and then Garcia.
I want to ask a question to Kenneth Walker. In the board policy, the board members have the final say-so in the board policy, but it is the board who decides what policy, I got to say this right. It is the board who provides an alternative to the policy. And we didn't do that.
So, yes, Board Member Love, you're correct. In your policy, specifically policy 1003, the board has set forth qualifications for its director of schools. And in that list, it spells out specific qualifications, and then it's 3 of them in particular, and behind each one it says, or a board-approved equivalent, right? It doesn't specify a time frame in which that equivalent needs to be approved, but just so long as the board approves an equivalent, other than the criteria or the qualifications that are set forth for its director of schools, then I believe that we will be following policy, or the board will be following its own policy.
Board Member Garcia, then Board Member Coleman.
I wasn't finished.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Please continue.
I'm still confused. This is the superintendent's hiring and firing is our top priority. I'm still confused by what you said. We can talk offline. All 3 candidates are valuable. And we have a plethora of experience. But the process, I'm still confused by the process. I don't think anybody did anything wrong. The board members were not given the valuable information in time to make an honest decision. I don't think the representatives of the Hazard and Young and Atia Associates did anything wrong. We didn't have a clear understanding as a board what we got and are assumed to get. Now is not the time. It is at the 11th hour, and I can't make a decision based off the 11th hour and stuff. I am duly elected to serve my community, and I can't do that in the 11th hour. I don't think it was intentional by this board or your associates. I think it is at the 11th hour.
Thank you, Board Member Love. I spent some time Thursday going back, also looking at policy 1003. That policy was revised in May of 2012. I raised this concern at the board retreat. I think when this policy was last revised, Natalie McKinney was in the policy office. That policy says clearly, no, I'm just quoting the facts. That policy clearly says, and I know Stephanie says she's a little confused, to have this or the board equipment. So I want to make sure that we clearly understand there's been no violation of policy. I'm very clear about that, and I got outside counsel just to make sure I clearly understood as the board chair. I think what we are saying today is that we want additional information, and we're just requesting that as a board because we have that right to, and I think the community expect for us to do that. Mr. Ali?
And Madam Chair, I just want to be very clear with the board. If we can go to slide 1. Slide 2. It's the, there we go. Go back to 2.
There you go.
So there are 34 applications. Just so we're clear, we're going to have to contact these individuals to notify them that their names will in fact go public. If they are inclined or disinclined, we need to make certain we perform that measure of due diligence. Because if they're in a process, remember we told individuals that pursuant to Tennessee law that their information could in fact go public if they made it to the top 3. Okay, so we need to make sure individuals are keenly aware of that, because it would not be fair to simply publish all names and you're in a seated superintendent role or in a C-suite role within a school system and no one has been privy to that. You've not notified your employer, as it were.
So you're saying that you have to notify those applicants to make sure that their information can be released to us? I'm just trying to be clear.
Well, yes, we most certainly would want to do that because we were under one supposition. We'd explained to applicants that the information was privileged and private until today. So everyone was under that supposition. And as a matter of fact, several individuals, because they wanted a completely confidential and private search, did not apply. In some states, depending on where you are, searches are confidential, womb to tomb. And this particular aspect is not. So just to be fair, to be very fair, you'd want to let individuals know exactly the process moving forward. We're not at all disinclined to release any and all documentation, but we do want to be fair to each and all applicants.
Board Member Williams and then Garcia.
Did these applicants apply to you, or did they apply to Shelby County Schools?
Mr. Williams, the applications were received by HYA within our portals. They did not apply through Shelby County's HR apparatus.
However, they were aware that they were applying for the superintendency of Shelby County Schools.
Yes, sir, they were aware of that.
And they were also aware that the information would be shared with the school districts. Surely they were aware of that.
If in fact individuals made it to the top 3, they were made aware that the information would go public if they made it to the top 3.
And that's in your contract, that's in your writing with them.
That was the instructions and directives for which we provided each and every applicant.
Whose decision was that, yours or was it ours?
It was
Well, it was a collective decision based upon discussions, with the board. We operated on the notion of bringing 3 for months. So again, this is new to us, that the board would like to see each and every single application. Again, we operated on the premise that we were bringing 3 for which the board would then select. If we'd known, just to be very clear, if we'd known that the board wanted to see 20 plus, then we would have altered the overall engagement so that we would have properly notified each and every applicant, and then we would have planned a much longer day so that the board would have had an opportunity to go through 15 plus, 20 plus applications.
That is not what we're asking. We're not asking to go through anything. We're asking to be notified of who applied.
Yes, sir.
And
we will make certain
not
that
going to go
happens.
through any applications and make any recommendations, but that was your job to do. But we did have the right to see who applied, I think. And I don't know that anything would have precluded that.
Mr. Williams, you will indeed receive each and every application. You're 100% right, sir. Not a problem.
I was getting ready to ask Kenneth a legal opinion with their permission. We have to have permission from those applicants. I'm just getting clarity.
Well, Madam Chair, if the applicants elect to withdraw, which several did,
Okay.
several individuals knew that if in fact they made it, the information would go public. If they did not make it, many withdrew.
We had 3 withdraw already, some because they received jobs during the course of the process, and 1 internal candidate decided to withdraw.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I think we should see all 34 names to what Board Member Williams has said. For me personally, I'm most interested in working backwards, seeing that 12 and then 21.
Sure.
If you were paper cut from a pool, I don't know that that information will help me, but I think, and I hear the public, and the public has been saying that they want to see all of the names. And thank you for all the work that you've done, and I know this probably didn't go as you had thought maybe when you sat in front of us today, so thank you for all the work that you've done, and we want to remove all doubt. We have a lot of work to do to rebuild trust with the community, and rightly so. If anyone remembers, I think this is we very well, 3 or 4 days from now, maybe with the same slate of people, but we need to remove all doubt that we have the top 3 candidates in front of us. So again, the 12 are the one that most interests me, and the 21, I don't know if the board needs to discuss if there's a different process. Then I also just want to make a statement. Can we please release all the materials to members of the media and not just to the board, to the public, to the true public? If we're going to put these out there, let's not slide them in a shared drive where we all know. The public truly needs to know. Thank you.
Ms. Hugh Garcia, let me state, I enjoy coming to Memphis. I really like Memphis, and the weather's been phenomenal. So no, We're okay with the
Yeah,
way the day
no
is
problem
going.
with that.
Okay, we're going to enjoy this beautiful city each and every time we come. So we're okay. Now, with respect to the dissemination of materials, we'd work in concert with council to make sure that we follow the appropriate procedures and/or laws. And as far as what you stated, I think it might have been the second point, you raised a very interesting point. I want to make sure, in the scripture it says, in thy getting, get understanding. I want us to get clear understanding here today. What do we want to see? Do we want to see each and every person who applied, or do we want to see individuals? Now, if principals applied, they would never make their way up in a superintendency of a district this size. If a teacher applied, they would never make their way up. So I want to be very clear, whether it's 34, 30, 21, just simply give us exactly what the board, and we want to hear everyone's voice on what do you exactly want to see leaning forward.
All the information, what we
Yeah,
asked
Miss-
months ago.
Mr. Ali, why you seem so,
Everything.
why you so defensive right now? It's like you got a defensive mechanism going on.
Oh, no, ma'am, I'm not defensive, Ms. Coleman. I want to make sure
I
that I want there to be clarity.
We want clarity also.
Absolutely.
But the way it seems from sitting right here now, it's like the more we asking, you're getting a little defensive. And I apologize if I'm wrong, but those people sitting behind you, I got to answer to them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with them. Everyone I'm out there that have talked to me, no, I'm going to keep it real and I'm going to tell the truth. Everybody up here is. And we have questions that we need answers. Because when we walk away from here, you going somewhere, but we're going to be here next week.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate that my understanding is that you want to see all 34. I'm not trying to be defensive. I want to share my understanding and clarify this. That the request of the
That we can come together and decide what information from those names we need.
Right.
But we need, and our public needs. We don't want it, we need it.
So I'm waiting for them to finish here. So my understanding, I just want to check that our understanding is correct, that the majority of the board wants to see the applications from all 34 candidates. Is
I
that?
want it.
Kevin, shut us off.
Madam Chair, if I could, I think, I don't know how many times board members can say all means all. So I think if it's working futility that there are candidates that aren't qualified, then you back into the most qualified candidates and say, these are my top 12. Start here. It's homework for us anyway, right? And then as you make your calls, tell us who said they don't want to be in the broader bunch for consideration. Madam Chair, I want to close again by restating the obvious. You have done great work in getting us this far. Look, this is not theater. It's not a run of show, and it doesn't supposed to be perfect. But we'll get it right. And the community will be patient with us. This work will continue. We're in good hands with our interim, and continue to understand that all means all. So I want to thank you for your time today. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
I want to also thank our media partners, KQ Communications, who will be releasing photos and other materials as related to the finalists via email today. We will continue. Colleagues, this is not over. We will be meeting, we will be talking, be willing to put in time, send emails, send any concerns. KQ Porter will be open for any additional information. You all email us. We're here to serve you and to work with you. Thank you again, HYA. We just getting the party started. We are not through. We are not finished. This work is not over. Guys, we want to say to our students, families, and staffs, we are praying for a successful TCAP testing period next week. This meeting is adjourned.